What's up, everybody? Yes, you are watching Corky Traxman Strong. This is a special Boiler Room clip that I just pulled off of YouTube, and I'm just loving it. What's up, Corky?
Hi there, big sis. What's going on?
Everything is groovy. I just love this clip. I had to watch it a few times.
Yeah.
This was in New York City?
Yes, ma'am.
And this was about, what, 5-6 years ago?
This was 2015.
They were really into it, I could tell.
They're just basically having fun. Try to know when you're playing music, just have fun, interact with the people.
I love it. But watch this. I'm just going to play it just a little bit more of it because I love this little part that's coming up here. This is great.
Oh, the Devo rework.
It's party time.
Yeah,
all right, we're going to get into it, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay, let me get out of this real quick. All right, bam. There we are. What's up, my brother? Oh, I lost him. You know what? What's up, everybody? It's me. And Corky Traxman is just such an amazing person, friend. I'm so excited to have him on the show. Thanks. I know I'm losing you a little bit here. You know what? It's this winter storm. We're having the worst storm in Chicago right now.
And it's pretty much on our end too. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think I've fixed the Wi-Fi and stuff. So I think we could be pretty cool for now.
Are we working out? All right, let's say some hays. Hey, Stephanie, thanks for tuning in.
Hey, Steph.
What's up, King Blaze?
What's up, Blaze?
All right. What's up,
Patricia? Hey, Skeeter mama. Hey, sister.
Skeeter. All right.
We got some beautiful people tuning in. How you guys doing?
What's up, Lauren? Hey, Lee. Lee said, Lee's calling you a knucklehead. I don't know how you're gonna take it.
Shout out to Lee Williams. Big boy Lee Williams. How you doing? Brother Lee?
But he also said the house music would not be house music without you in it.
So well, thank you. I'm humbled.
What's up, Daryl? Thanks for tuning in. And Eric, thank you for being here. Lauren, you got something to say. Black History Month. Yes, it is Black History Month on the Vintage House Show. I do want to talk about what that means to everybody. But first, I want to get into it with Corky. You know, you were on the show. Maybe I don't know. It might have been like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It's been a minute.
2017, and we came up to the show. That was quite a minute ago. I remember that, but yeah, I sinned and I let it slip my mind. But yeah, I had a great time too.
That was fun. That was when we were in the studio, and we are going to be back in the studio soon. I think it opened up again this week, so we'll be back. Yeah, 2017, Lauren. It was a minute. What's up, Mike Davis? Thanks for tuning in. So let's just get into it. What's going on? How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah. So many opportunities and so many things that's going on right now in my life, and dealing with the music, and right now I'm teaching and I do a lot of workshops. I had to ease up off Facebook because I had to really start to focus on a lot of big things and opportunities I was getting. So, some certain things. So it's like I just had to move away from one thing, and plus being a father.
Okay.
That's a real big thing for me, like right now, because all through the 10 years of just traveling international, back and forth, I really wasn't able to sit there and spend time with my children, because now my youngest, my baby boy, he's 12, and he makes music now, and I'm shocked and like Dad, I'm gonna play this beat, and I'm like, whoa, and and when he did that, that of course a lot of things start to click, because I'm like, hey, don't touch the turntable, you're gonna break my needle, don't try to, and this is what it morphed into. So with that, which was just a couple of months ago, and dealing with a lot of other people and children and kids, because I have a soft spot for dealing with kids, preferably Black kids in the community, but kids all around the world, no matter what race, they're children. And we want to, or I want to give them the history of this great music that I came up from in Chicago, and the history and everything else that morphs along with teaching the next generation.
Right.
That's what I'm doing on.
You talk about that a lot, and I know that often after our shows, Corky will reach out to me and say, "Listen, that's great. It's nice that we're hearing from all these old people." Now the show is Vintage House, so we are vintage, and so we are trying to unpack the stories of the people who've been there before they're gone. And I mean, I have to say, we've done a lot of stories with people who are no longer here.
Absolutely.
So I'm so glad that we were able to do that, and there's still so much of that to do.
Yeah.
But you were one of the people who inspired us to really bring on, younger people, which is what we do in our spotlight.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely.
Well, let me clear this up, sis. Well, when I say the phrase, the older people, so there's two types.
Okay.
Man, this is what I break down.
Yeah.
And I try to, I say it with love. You have old as far as genetic, gray and skin, and then you have elders. The elders will give you the game. Old people just, hey, well, you just need you. That's finger wagging.
Yeah.
And that's not how you raise a nation and how we deal with the village. Because if we are the elders of the village, it is our duty to teach the next generation, not hold it for ourselves, not tell the next person, well, I got to get my money. Well, you've been getting your money for over 30 to 40 years. Make room. And so this is why I do what I do. Okay. And I have to fall back because if I speak about it, a lot of people will think I'm talking about myself. And it's like, no, I'm not talking about myself. No, I'm not a self-centered person. And just either here, there's just a lot of rhetoric, but still keeping the ball rolling to push the next generation.
I hear you. And we've done that in a few different ways, but before I want to get into that, but I want to talk about your style of house music. And I know we did this once before, but I think it's important because often, we have this one vision of what house music is supposed to look like, sound like. You're from the West Side of Chicago. Where'd you grow up?
Cape Town born, Holy City raised.
There you go. Okay. And out of that came lots of house music pioneers in lots of different ways. Yes. Who were some of those folks, the West Siders?
Yeah. And what's crazy? Everybody thinks I'm just a little kid and I'm like but I'm there. So for so many years, I've seen great DJs from 1981, even way before I even thought about touching a turntable. And I was always a lover of music, early 70s born. So we were growing up to the sounds of Philadelphia, the Gamble and Half of if we were still hearing the music of the Temptations, because even then that was considered old school, My Girl, or the things you do, Express Yourself, or Staple Singers, stuff like that. And I can vividly remember when I really started to hear disco music. This is the 70s. I'm a little kid. It's 77, 78.
Right.
I'm like 5 or 6 around those times. And I remember hearing In the Bush. And the radio station used to play this, nice to like it, but I don't know. But these DJs, I grew up with witnessing a crew called the Fantastic Five, which was a Master J, DJ Bo, and DJ Al, and Edward Get Down Crosby. This is 1981.
Okay.
And my uncle started to do it. And so he had a girlfriend at that time that had a brother that actually went to the warehouse. Never heard of him. This is 81, 82. And he was LGBT. This is my source of music. He's my source of music. And he was like, I don't know what y'all playing, but you need to check this out. He would just pull out a stack of music, West End stuff, Celso stuff, and just Love Break by Celso Orchestra and music like that is just beautiful music. And around this time, this is when we started to hear WBMX. But we was listening to Ataka in my neighborhood, Ataka, White Boy, Quick Mix Claude, Greg the Master, Terrible Ted. Terrible Ted was the OG DJ in the 70s. Right. When we was little kids, and he wasn't the big mix, but he just had all the equipment, and he was like the man. And it was with this crew called the Big 50 DJs, I think, and it was including Sam Chapman and a lot of the.
Are any of those guys still around?
Sam Chapman's still popping. Yeah,
I know Sam Chapman is, but some of those other guys that you mentioned.
Like, I know Terrible Ted. He's still around. Yeah.
And they're still. Are they still in the music, or like what happened to that crew?
Yeah, I think Terrible Ted is still doing things here and there, because I know when I was working at the past records, and he used to come up there a lot and just drop off stepper CDs and stuff, and just talk to him. And I've been knowing him like half my life. And when they would set up the turntables and they needed somebody to play those records, they would get the DJs, the local DJs to do. We were a little bit too young. Right. But I think the DJs they were getting at that time, this is around 82. This is around 81, 81, 80. And they were getting people like, I think it was Jab, Kevin McSwain, a lot of those guys, and the Little Lewises. So we were seeing these people before the big boom, with Chicago. And it's just so it's too many DJs to unpack. I know. To even it's too many. So I won't even go into
Tyrone Mix said you a youngin'. What's up,
Tyrone?
You know
what? And I love being the youngin', because if and let me tell you this again, you have old people they would call us, hey, you young guys, and you have the elders that would say, come on, brother, come on, sister. Right. We need y'all to take this to the next level. Okay. And that's when we come in to be the buffer for listen. I know the older guys are saying that, but we can't fight a situation that's crazy. But what we can do is protect the future for those who want to get down and the kids that want to get down. So it is what it is. But shout out to Tyrone Mix, man. Legendary Tyrone Mix.
I want to shout out a lot of these folks who are in the room with us tonight. Thanks for being with us. Kevin Jackson, different generations representing. And I think you're right. There's lots of ways that we can look at, like, what does age mean in the house music community? Because there are a lot of folks who are just such purists, like you got to be 40, 50, 60 years old to be considered like real, acceptable in some circles. And it's like, there's people who are 12, 15 years old who are doing this and coming out strong, Yeah. So passing the torch is important. Now I will say this. We have a lot of arguments about what does that mean to pass the torch, because I know Craig and I get into this a lot. We are like, who passed us a torch? Well, no one, people did. You have to think about it. Somebody gave you an opportunity, whether it was a person who rented you their space, whether it was the DJ that you witnessed and you modeled yourself after, or somebody who literally put you on and gave you something. Somebody gives you a hand up. Somebody does that for you. So for anyone to think you just got there all on your own, I think that's crazy. What do you think?
You're absolutely right. Within my career, I explained to my students and to my peers that me being Corky Traxman strong, I didn't do it alone. No, if it wasn't for hearing this great music, hearing it on the radio as a kid, we was being more than just exposed to, we were being spoon fed, like just, oh my God, like what does a 10-year-old, what the hell does a 10-year-old know about Walk the Nights?
Nothing.
Or mixing it.
Right.
But I knew how to mix it because I was hearing the DJs mix it.
Yeah.
So when they say things like Michael Jackson, him being a kid prodigy, there's 1,000 kid prodigies. I knew I was a kid prodigy from what I was seeing and what I wanted to do, because I set my mind to, like, I'm gonna be the best, illest DJ. But then hip hop comes along,
right?
With us, at that time. And going back to what you said with passing the torch, house music is a hell of a lot like it's a hell of a lot like how hip hop. It's no different. Comes from the poor, impoverished people.
House
Same
music.
as with,
you think so?
Exactly. And
this is, listen, we talk about this because a lot of folks say just the opposite. That one of the differences with house music is that there was a very wide array of classes that were involved. So a lot of the people who were those early pioneers, their parents were buying them equipment, or they were borrowing the equipment from somebody whose parents who bought it for them. I mean, my mother gave us $500 to rent.
That was just like hip hop. That's just like hip hop. Hip hop. A lot of people in the South Bronx in 1973, the decimated neighborhood in the South Bronx, didn't have it like that. But you had Kool Herc.
Yeah.
And basically, how they get all that equipment was that big blackout they had in 1977. And they broke and got all they got that equipment. So this is how the Coke Crush Brothers and all these crews came about. But I totally understand. Some people were able to get it because they had the parents that had the money.
Right.
Yeah, my moms didn't have the money, so we had to do what we had to do on the streets, or we had somebody that was cool enough to give us stuff,
I want to tease that out. First, I know Patricia has a question for us. New phase that's coming up and spreading in Memphis, Juke, which they're not giving Chicago any recognition of inspiration. Does that sound familiar to you?
Well, Memphis, Memphis has its own thing, just like New York, California, London, and Germany, Berlin. Everybody has their own thing, but when you do the DNA to it, and see where the bloodline comes from, that's just like with Jersey House or Baltimore House, or with the thing with my homeboy Mike Q in Jersey, with the Ballroom House. You know what I'm saying? It's many levels. So
they got their own thing. Well, got their own thing. Okay, so there's two places I want to go with that. One is you made a distinction in like sort of how you came up and where you were getting your influences from, and how did you sort of veer into what that traditional sort of underground house music into what you became so well known for, especially when you talk about Juke and Ghetto House and Footwork. So first of all, let's break it down for people. Talk a little bit about what each of those mean and how you got involved. Okay.
Footwork has been here for 50 years and more. And the reason why I say that is because we had stepping.
Right.
Stepping is the form of footwork. Left, right, left, shuffle, shuffle. You can look at the oldest dude that's 65 and he has that fancy footwork. Let's go back to the early 80s with the groups. The dance groups that were dancing, the Spy Guys and all that stuff. I remember that. And Cadillac Club and all those guys, and a lot of dance groups were doing their thing. Even if you look at stuff, they would at the parties and the footage of the garage. We've been footworking for years. When we hit that floor, when we hear you foot shuffling, you're footworking.
Okay.
Period. Second, Ghetto House. Ghetto House is nothing. It's not dirty music. Don't let the older DJs tell you, because they ducked their head in the sand in the 90s. And everybody knew around that time when the Dance Manias, the Relief Records, and Underground Construction Records was about. Ghetto House is basically Jesse Saunders on and on tracks, Farley funking with the drums, Virgo Go Wild track. Shout out to Marshall Jefferson. Adonis's No Way Back, Chippy's It's House. Those are the foundations of ghetto house music from Steve Poindexter's Work That, Computer Madness, Land of Confusion. It was the stripped down music. We have to really break that down.
Okay.
Because you had good music as the Larry Heard's Mystery of Love. One of the most greatest records ever recorded.
Love that song.
Man, I love that song. But before I heard that, I was hearing funking with the drums. Faces drums, 117. That was the music that spoke to the youth. I'm 14 at this time. This is 1985. This is the music that spoke to the youth. And this is crazy. This is I totally remember this. The older DJs, they were like 5, probably 7 years older than us. They hated house music. They didn't like house music.
Really? What were they listening to?
Italo imports and all that stuff.
Okay.
Which was dope music, but
yeah,
when you heard Time to Jack, like I didn't like it. Trust me.
Right.
The reason why those older DJs didn't like it, because the young people picked it up.
Okay.
Again, young people, a generation of young people, impoverished people through the South Side, the West Side, the North Side, Addison, because we got to think of the music that's for the people. Now, I'm growing up on the West Side, but also grew up in the Humboldt Parks section of all the Puerto Ricans. So I had a lot of Puerto Rican buddies I was DJing with in the early 80s. Right. Who was that? There was a big one, Perez, Mario Latin House, a lot of those great DJs, the Spanish DJs. And we played a little bit different than the South Side. Totally different. And still to this day, I explain to them, no, we're going on skills. One, we didn't have the Mendos and the Music Box and all those places, and what the South Side had. Even though the West Side had way more places to party in the late 70s and early 80s. From Da Vinci Manor, the Factory, clubs. Right,
those were the West Side clubs.
Those were the West Side clubs. And we didn't have any, we didn't have that. So we would just like go with what we would go with. Okay. And create what we would create, So it like I said, at those times, I wish I can go back to them, and playing that music like Video Clash and Tyree Cooper's Video Crash, and Mike Dunn was like God to us. God to us. This is what I want people to understand, that Mike Dunn, and still to this day, Mike Dunn is a God. And
what's up, Maurice? Are we talking about that Ghetto House? I think so.
Yes, we're talking about Ghetto House. Shout out to Guillotine. Get his music. Everybody get his music. You know what I'm saying? His music is ill, the ill thing in Chicago.
Get on Bandcamp and get his music. Yes. Yeah.
So yes, we are talking about Ghetto House, but we're breaking everything down because things are not broken down. Fast Eddie, the Tyree Coopers, all these guys. So this is what built Ghetto House. Going into the night.
A couple things that were. So you mentioned some of those tracks that we think of as traditional Chicago house, like Chippy and Jesse Saunders, or some pieces of those I've never heard anybody classify those tracks as ghetto house. How do they fit into that category?
Well, beat machine.
Okay.
The patterns, because the patterns that were used then, we are still using those patterns now. Just like for a great example of Chippy's It's House.
Well, you think Chippy would consider it Ghetto House?
Well, I don't know. But I don't know.
So
but,
you consider it Ghetto House.
I don't think, but we've given him the story, and he totally understands, because if you listen to His House, it is the doom 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 doom. Now come up to the 90s, you got bang 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 ski ski ski, bang 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 ski ski ski. You know, or let me bang, doom 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 doom, let me bang. You know, we focus on those patterns because that's, like I said, that's what made the music more intense.
Okay.
Or the cuts, to Armando's, and which made the hip house of Fast Daddy, all the way up to Lil Lewis's French Kiss.
Now Tyrone says that made him simplistic. No shade. So, but would you call that simplistic? I mean, it was stripped down, but you know, there's something that is very technically, you know, sound about that. We created a new sound. Would you say that's simplistic? I mean, I don't know about that.
No,
phrase.
I wouldn't say that's simplistic. It just wasn't the music that was coming about. Wasn't the music for them. Yes.
Hey, Eric.
That's it.
I hear you.
So if it didn't fit you.
Yeah.
It didn't. Yeah, it just didn't fit.
Did you ever go to Club Luray? Okay. Okay. I do remember a distinct shift in things where we kind of, were house music as we understand it as a canon, like the music that was being created in Chicago and emulated in other places, and vice versa, became kind of the sound, like this was like, I think 86-ish, 85, 86, 87, where we were sort of moving away from disco, more instrumental stuff. So you had Marshall Jefferson and Lewis, and you had some beautiful stuff that was sort of more melodic in there.
Yeah, the Larry Heard stuff.
Larry Heard, a lot more stripped down kind of, beats, where I would go out with friends and they're like, I feel like I'm hearing the same song all night. Like have you ever heard that when people listen to, like did the song change? This sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean,
what's that?
I think it everything has its place.
Okay.
It has its place. I love the Larry Heard stuff. Some music with keyboard work, that shows sophistication to music and what it is. But sometimes a lot of the music, even with now, some of it just sounds so repetitious. It sounds the same, and
they were saying that about our music.
Say again.
Were they saying that about our music? I remember playing house music at my house, and my brother was saying the same. He's like, I don't understand. Like, he didn't understand the concept of mixing. Like, so way back then, like you'd go from one song to the next. He was like, is it the same song? Like, it don't sound any different to me. And I'm just wondering, is that about people's, inability to understand a different genre? So if you don't get into it, it just doesn't sound like anything to you. And I've heard that.
Yeah, I think, I believe that's true. Like, if you're not into it, you're really not going to feel it. I try to give songs a chance. I try my best, but it's like some of it, and I don't like to search track source for an hour and over 100 songs you go through. There's only 3 that may sound good.
That's the nature of the beast, don't you think? What's up, Carlos? The energy that the young crowd had to Ghetto Tracks was insane. So do you think Ghetto House sort of took house to another level when it really became much more popular?
It absolutely
And that was in the 90s, wouldn't you say?
That was the 90s. And the question was, and people that say that it did not happen and that was not true. The question is, where were they?
Yeah.
They were nowhere around. Now, with the exception of Brother Maurice Joshua, Steve Phil Curley, one of my heroes, Farley Jackmaster Funk, Marshall Jefferson, and these guys elevating in the 90s, early 90s, we're going to the Atlantic Records, the Warner Brothers, and doing the CC Peniston stuff and winning Grammys and Summertime, Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. They took it to the next level. These are our brothers, and I always let them know that, like, man, we adore that, but you guys had to take that. So the streets of Chicago are empty. So that leaves us. So now you get Derek Carter's. Now you get the DJ Heathers. Now you get the
DJ Lady D.
Paul Johnsons, DJ Dion's, the Traxmans. Because in-house music, that's one thing I really speak on. Because house music, if you look at those documentaries, and this is not to crap on those documentaries. Like I said, these are brothers and sisters, and we love our elders. But when it gets to the 90s, everything's a shutdown. It's like, or they took the show on the road to Europe, and it's like, like this is what they did with the Crystal Waters and the blah blah blah, and it's like, but guess what we were doing here? Underground Construction, Dance Mania, Relief Records, even the outside Chicago labels like Strictly Rhythm, everybody in other states started to pick up. So it was a big, different move in the 90s.
Yeah. So we got a couple more people in the house. I just want to give a shout out to Scott Lee, who's been here for a minute.
Hey, Scott.
And Rick. Talking about the West Side. Rick
Lenore?
Rick Lenore.
Hey, man, look. I can't. Rick Lenore is so legendary.
Yes, he is.
St. Peter's. I was introduced to Rick some long time ago through Kevin McSwain. So Kevin McSwain is like the link with me to a lot of the big DJs on the West Side. If it was the Rick Lenores, if it was the Randys, because I plugged up with him in like 85. Oh man, it's a long time ago, 85. And when we started to do our own parties in the late 80s, this is 87, 88, documented, we were doing our own parties. It was me, a brother by the name of DJ Ty, Gene Hunt. Gene was with us because Gene stayed up the block because all of us grew up together. And it was just different, you know what I'm saying, at that time. But yeah,
Demetria, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. A couple shout outs here.
But love you, Rick. Lonnie B, I see you too, man.
Yeah.
But you know what? I was talking to somebody about beat versus house. They had a thing called beat versus house in the late 80s. And of course, the South Side was house. Right. And the West Side was beat.
Talk about that. Why did
we still get in that tail? Oh my God! When it came to the factory jack, you weren't going because everybody was in there shuffling, and the tracks were way more intense. But the crazy thing was, like, I think the Hummingbird was going on at that time on Ashland in 87, and we went there. And they used to play like what's the Armando joint? We're on the Move, and they used to play We're on the Move, yeah. And they banged that track, but we didn't play that version. We used to play the snare your ass off version.
Okay.
And I noticed, like, man, like, we're kind of straight ahead. If you listen to Houseman, if you listen to Jam and Drill. But again, our ideas came from listening to Mike Dunn.
Right.
Again, this circles back to Mike Dunn, the late great Armando Gallup,
Of course.
K Alexi, Tyree Cooper, you know, and especially Marshall, because I always tell Marshall, like, Marshall, you just a crazy dude, man. You just the GOAT. And Farley. Can't forget Farley. And Steve Silcurl.
You're gonna, you know what? Once you start naming names, it's a rabbit hole, because it's so many great DJs, so many legendary house music figures in Chicago. I mean, it is where it started. So shout out to all those folks, and thanks for tuning in.
Man, I love them.
Tell us, Corky wants you to hear about your first overseas gig tour. Where? How was it? Anything cool, fun, weird? I wanted to talk about that. I'm glad you brought it up, because you have done extensive travel. We talked about this once before. You know, being booked. A lot of DJs from Chicago have been able to do that, and a lot have not. But you've been very successful at it. So talk about that.
Yeah, I'm humble, and I'm still getting gigs, even still to this day. My first big gig in Europe was Copenhagen. I played Copenhagen. But the first stop I stopped to was London. And of course, I've never been there, and it was just surreal. But the next day I had to fly out to Copenhagen, and where things, it's just like, wow, different smell, different atmosphere, you know, but the party was dope. But you know what? My computer was acting crazy that night. So I actually got to say, my first experience, I did well. But no, I look at that video now. I'm not going to tell nobody what video that was. That's just gonna say Copenhagen. But after that it was like Game Face, and everywhere I went, I just killed because everybody has the stigma with me in Chicago with being this Footwork, Juke, Ghetto House DJ. No, I'm a DJ that plays it all. You know, and just like in wood house music, no, that's crazy. When I was in Europe, I always start my sets off at 125. It's never boom, 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 boom. Are you crazy? I'm not gonna do that. I have people there, so I'm looking to see white, black, and Asian, whatever. There's people, so my mind is going. So it's like, slow it down. Give them, get them grooving. You know what I'm saying? Then you know, add a little techno record that's funky. And hey, I may throw in an edit of "Music Is My Life" by Patti LaBelle. I do things like that. That's why I tell people, when I play in Europe, I play differently, and this is how I started. Like later through the years, I started to get the 4-hour sets in China. I would do like 4-hour sets called The History of House Music.
Yeah. Do you have any of that on video? Because I would love to see some of that.
You know what? I got a good buddy in China, if I can reach out to him, but through these COVID situations, it's kind of been like, but then I could try to contact him. But I can try to get as much as I can on that footage, because wow, those were my best parts.
I was going to ask, so Kevin's talking about Asia, that Footwork was big there. Did you find that, or what was the vibe like when you went there?
That, oh my God, the vibe there of Japan.
Yes. Japan has a great love of African American music, and certainly blues is big there. House is big there. What? Talk about a day in Japan doing house music.
Whoa, it's mind blowing. Japan, Tokyo Shibuya is mind blowing. I will encourage anybody, just go there. Where the streets go like this, and everybody, that's real, and that's Shibuya. And when I first went there in 2012, the humbleness and their generosity is off the chain. And so humble. And they took us to our hotel, and I was with one of my buddies that danced, and they were having some type of sit-in thing they had, and they was watching one of my buddies' Footwork from here. And when I walked in, everybody just went, Traxman. That's all I'm hearing, Traxman. Everybody has Traxman t-shirts on. I'm like,
are you serious?
I'm not used to stuff like that. Like, this dude,
didn't see that coming.
Got your shirt. They're wearing your picture on their, it's just like, wow.
Now, did you send those shirts in front, or someone made them up?
They made those shirts. They made those shirts. I didn't ask, and they gave me money for the shirts. That's humble.
Wow.
But with house music, they love house music.
Okay.
They've gotten to the point they're really not into the house of really what's coming out of Chicago. I'm gonna be honest. They're really not. They're not, and if people say this, no, they're not. I'm there. I've been out there over 9 to 10 times. And I've played house sets out there. If you're not coming with music that moves and bangs and has a groove, you can't, their version of house music is not a lot of tamales and bongos.
Give me an example of a song or two that would be.
It has to be like let's say like Club Lonely.
Okay.
Because it's driven.
Yeah.
It's driven. Or like a Dennis Farrell's Hey Hey. Or what's the other joint by him? It's got to be a little bit tracky, and it can have sexy vocals to it.
Okay.
Some sexy vocals to it. It doesn't have to be just tracked out with no words.
Yeah.
But if it has sexy vocals to, oh man, they going. And once you get into the beat tracky stuff of the Paul Johnson, Robert the Money, some DJ Dion. Oh, they gone.
Really?
So this is how you get those other DJs, because now they've picked up what we've done. This is why I have to tell people we have to be careful about of how we throw our music around, or saying, well, this is Juke, this is this. No, really, it's all Chicago house music. It comes from the umbrella. I met Frankie. Real talk. I met him in 2013. At I think the Mid, he did a Mike Serafini, shout out Mike Serafini, Gramophones Records. He had him doing a sitting. I think it was something just talking. And Patricia Sanford, she introduced us for him. It was me, Sluggo, DJ Rashad, the top Footwork, Juke DJs. We were literally talking to the Godfather, and he knew who we were.
Right.
So that's why I tell this generation, shame on you guys. He called us the Juke 'em Up Boys. And we just died laughing, man. But when I tell you, that man had a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Oh my God, just a good guy, And I'm not gonna say, well, that's the first time I ever met him. And I honestly told him, like, I'm a Run Hardy type of guy.
Yeah.
Like, maybe I love Run, maybe I love Run. It was just like, man, this dude was just so cool, giving him pictures of water, just a beautiful guy. So when he passed, that was that hurt me. And then my brother DJ Rashad passed the next week.
Man, no
that
way.
Was a double. So that was a double whammy with Chicago. But it is what it is with that.
So you say shame on folks for doing what? I know I've seen you wagging your finger more than once.
I'm gonna wag my finger because it's the late.
Who are you shaming and why?
If the late great Frankie Knuckles knew exactly who we were,
right?
And these DJs that's been around for 40 years, they scream Frankie. you guys don't know who we are. Something's wrong here. This is the Godfather. He still follows what's going on.
Right.
And gave
So
us
you're
advice.
saying these folks should know who the young people are.
Exactly. Like,
that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm 50. I don't have any business getting into the Cardi B stuff and the money bag yo and all that. But this is my daughter's 26. This is music they like.
Right.
And I respect it. Sometimes I play it. But and I be like, but I get to tapping my feet. Like a time that they under the line that they I'm kind of But I can understand, what I'm saying, man. It's like I at least want to be 3 steps ahead with knowing what's going on. If people go back and look at the biography of Miles Davis from the time of 1969 to 1970, real quick, when he created Bitches Brew, he got crapped on by the old jazz men. Yes,
I've heard this. Absolutely.
And because why? He went from acoustic to electronic.
And they didn't understand it.
And they didn't understand this is what's going on now.
Yeah. I hear you. So let's talk about that a little bit. I want to talk about the documentation of our music, of our history, and where we're trying to go. It's Black History Month, so let's talk about Black Chicago house music history.
Word. Let's get it.
So there's been a fair amount of documentaries, and I've been talking about this recently. Like lots of people wanting to get the record straight. And I will say you're never going to get the record straight because everybody's got their own perspective and everybody's got their own history.
Everybody's got a story.
Yeah. So there's always more. That's why we've been doing the show for 7 years and the stories are still coming out, because there's so many. Now there are people who are spinning some yarns. I've read some. I have, because I've been around a long time too. And people will say where they were when we knew they weren't even around, there's still some of that. But regardless, there are still some gaps in the story. I think you're pointing out some critical ones. The 90s feels like a whole gap decade for us, in terms of what was being created that was crucial to Chicago house. Even the terms, the Ghetto House and Footwork and all that, they feel in the background to me. What's missing from the documentary right now? Like, what should we be talking about that we're not talking about enough?
I think like I said, the 90s shed light on the 90s, and it's not just with Footwork, because the footwork, the term footwork actually got coined through a white fellow by the name of Mike Peridinas from Planet Mute Records. Okay. We weren't even calling it footwork. We didn't call it footwork. We just called it tracks. Put some tracks on. And so that's how it became a genre when itself. But Ghetto House, Juke, Underground House, because we have to look at it in the 90s, was the hardcore surfacing of on the vinyl side into the world of Boo Williams, Glenn Underground, Derek Carter, Cashmere, Green Velvet, a lot of that music was being displayed, and it wasn't being, a lot of us kind of see that it really wasn't being that respected in the Chicago house community at that time. Now you had a handful of DJs. A handful of DJs that was still representing that. From one of them is Andre Hatchett. So shout out to Andre Hatchett in the 90s.
Right.
He was still holding it down because we've seen him doing a lot of parties. I think we went to a couple of them. And even though this dude hates my gut, DJ Emmanuel was holding it down in the 90s at the warehouse. You know what I'm saying? And he was ripping the basement. So
yeah. It was a tough decade because we didn't have, everything was very fragmented. And that's kind of, in my opinion, that's a process of evolution. So, in the 80s, you might have had 2 or 3 clubs that everybody went to. They talked about it. But by the time you get to the 90s, a lot of people have left Chicago, or you're on the move, or they are, splintered. So, I mean, I DJ'd with Emmanuel and Boo Williams at, clubs downtown, and we were doing stuff every day. There was something to do, lots of different parties, lots of different ways to do that. But for some reason, it gets lost in the mix when we talk about house music, like that era, and it was very important. So it sounds like if we were to do a documentary, could we do something just about 90s house music?
Well, you know what? The 90s house music era is actually one of the biggest movements on its own. It's crazy, just like, but just like with the 80s, the 80s was the blueprint. Was the blueprint of what we have today. Without the blueprint, we have nothing.
Right.
Nothing. No, nothing. Without the Frankies, the Lories, the Craigs, the Steve Hurleys. Without you guys, the Hot Mix 5, the Teeth Shop Lees, the Walter Get Down Browns, the Brian Furious Frazier, Hugo, and all these great people. We have nothing. But the 90s, the 90s was different. Why I say that is because house music got its own identity. It really got its own identity.
Interesting, because here, let me interrupt for a second, because I'm hearing lots of different ideas about it. So Tyrone's calling it the golden years. I see, I
like that. The 90s golden house, the 90s golden house years.
I like this. Kevin is saying we had growing pains. So I'm wondering, I don't know what you mean by that, but I kind of get it. It's that we were trying to figure out, we had an identity, like we were babies in the 80s. And so everything was fresh and cool and fun. And then it was like stuff started feeling late. Like I remember my girlfriend, Aisha, who Corky, you're friends with Aisha. And we would hear stuff at clubs. We were like, this sounds late. It's just something about it that felt immediately dated. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not going to stand the test of time. So the stuff that we were listening to in like the 80s, the mid to late 80s, when we started hearing it in the 90s, it wasn't classic. It just felt old.
Yeah, it felt odd.
And so we had to create, so it had to evolve. So I kind of hear you that, there were some growing pains and we were figuring out what house music really was going to become. So that's when you had, you did have it taken off. Your Crystal Waters and CeCe Peniston and
the Liars Follow Me and all those good songs.
That, and you're getting these pop singers who are doing, house music, Mariah Carey and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it became global. It went global, and with all the labels like D-Jax, Peace Frog, and all these top labels, it's like a cash cow.
Right. Absolutely.
Around
Casual
the world.
Records. So much good stuff that was happening there.
But with Casual Records now that's when it gets sticky. When we tell people in 1992, house music was not really smacking like it was that 88, 89.
Well, that's why we were saying it was an identity crisis. It was like, so what is
happened?
This?
What happened was, thank God for the percolator. The percolator actually came in with the section of Steve Poindexter's work EP, started to shift, but we still had a lot of music in the underground. It was still business in the underground. Underground was still business. And from DJ International and Trax Records taking the slope to Dance Mania coming up. That's start to do that. So Ray Barney's label was more sought after because, and I worked at Barney's even in those heydays. And dealing with distribution, I dealt with distribution. So I actually dealt with these people one-on-one if it was Cashmere or no Prince. dealing with distribution, dealing with crosstalk, dealing with Bacon Taylor, dealing with Galaxy. You probably know those names. Yeah. And we start to see the shift of the records. Mm-hmm. It was a big shift, and the music got more grunchier.
Grunchier.
The more it hit the streets, it got grunchier. So so more of the DJ Funk, more of the DJ Dion, Waxmaster, Jam and Gerald, D-Man, Paul Johnson, myself, and a lot of stuff that was coming out at that time. It started to change, but we can't forget about hard house. It's a style called hard house. Okay, man, that's another version of ghetto house. That the Spanish do. The Spanish is real hard. Some cool, but it kind of blew my mind. But I like it though. But so you have Dance Mania Records, Underground Construction, Relief, Casual, ruling the 90s with the exception of Strictly Rhythm, Peace Frog, Zax. This is a whole other movement. And when, like I said, when you look at these documentaries, these things are never talked about. They are. And and I used to go really hard in the paint about it. And for like 2 years I eased off. And the reason why I eased off, I think we had these conversations, and like even with Craig, and I just say, you know what, that's just you guys' generation. It's a generation, and we learned from that. We were kids and becoming teenagers in that generation. Yeah. So the 90s was us. It was a little bit wider because then you have the rave era.
Absolutely. There was a lot happening. And that's why I think people were saying there was kind of an identity. Like we were trying to figure out what it was. And in my opinion, that's called evolution. When things burst out and you create all these little things that kind of like little wind-up toys that are going all over, because that's what happens, It's like gremlins, you fed it, it grew, it's everywhere now. And it's got its own little mutation. Boy, there's too many like COVID references in my talk, but gremlins and real mutations. But that's what happens when you grow a movement. I thought the 90s was fabulous. I like what you're saying, Fat. I'm putting that back up there. Thanks for checking us out. 90s was the middle
what's up,
of the 80s. All right, cool beans. All right, we only got like a couple minutes yet, but can we address records like Jumpin', Todd Terry, the Horn Song, Don? So yeah, that was all there. Oh
yeah. Keep on Jumpin' was the joint. That's like 92, and they created their own little sound in New York with Todd Jerry's, Louis Vegas, and Kenny Dope. I'm more of a Kenny Dope guy.
Thank you, Sean.
But they had their own thing in the 90s. But what we were doing was so unique, that we inspired the DJs of now. That's worldwide. We inspired them. Me, myself, I don't know if it was Glenn Underground. I know it was Paul Johnson. We were playing in Wisconsin some years ago at a rave, and they had some DJs that come over from some agency booked a couple of French DJs, and one of them happened to be Thomas Bangler. Okay, if people don't know who he is, Thomas Bangler, he owns Roulette Records, and he's the other half of Def Punk. So
I knew that name was familiar. Yes.
You can teach me, show me how to work. We laughing, but beautiful guy. Yeah. But now when you see records like hear records like The Teachers by Def Punk. That explains it. Yeah. That explains it. When they're giving out so many shots out to so many Chicago DJs, and the first person they name is Paul Johnson.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks, Demetria.
Hey, sis.
So yeah, listen, it's already 10 o'clock. It happens so fast. Oh my God. Oh, I'm glad I'm recording this because I'm gonna do a replay. We're gonna play this all week.
Cool.
But I want to talk about what you're doing now and what do you want, you have a great voice, and I mean that literally, and I mean it. I think you are intellectual. You have so much to contribute to this conversation, and I'd like to hear more from you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Eric Welton's in the house. What's up, Eric? Woohoo! That's rest in peace. Sorry. Yes, rest in peace. And here's Eric. Came
Absolutely.
up in the 90s, Dance Mania, Clubhouse, Casual, Strictly Lit, all that good stuff. Yes, we need to do a whole show, Eric, just about that. And we talked
Eric,
about sort of what's missing from the plethora of documentaries that are out there. I think it's the 90s. I really do.
It's absolutely the 90s because it's overlooked. And when we speak about it, it's like people look, and some, well, these are a couple of reasons why it's not mentioned.
Yes.
One of the reasons that it's not mentioned because it doesn't concern them. And it's like, that should be cool. You should be cool with that. You know, you don't see Cool Herc, Bambaataa, or Grandmaster Flash all in, Run DMC's and Whodini's or Wu-Tang's videos like, we're the OGs. We've been here since 1973. No, they're sitting back because they're the OGs. You be an elder.
Yes,
and that's what I like. That's what I do. Even with the with the footwork stuff like now. No, I'm not gonna be like, no, I'm not gonna talk to these guys. I'm gonna talk to these kids, and like I said, I talk to them every day, and I just want the best for them. It's not about me. It's not about none of this, and preferably for the Black community.
That's right.
We gotta do it for the Black community. What we have to stop doing is being in our 50s or in our 60s, being childish. And when we do, this is why I had to pull back from Facebook, and I strictly have IG and Twitter, and it's 100% music. I love the people. No, I don't talk about other things. It's just keep it music. So, we have to learn to dialogue.
Yes.
And that's like what we're doing now. We're dialogue. And I that's why when I talk to the brothers and sisters when it's concerning house music, a lot of them are just very amped, and it's like, oh, sister, we're not going to do this. We're going to talk about this. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I will accept that. But we have to grow.
I agree.
And this is why we have to have people like myself. And I see Matthew Yates in the building. Me and him, we talk a lot. We need our elders to step up and be the village to these children.
Absolutely.
I'm taking the initiative to do that.
Right.
I'm not waiting on them.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. And I appreciate you. So what is on your agenda for 2022? What can you tell? How can people find you? What's going on?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I was just, a while ago, like, man, what's crazy due to pandemics, I've been traveling, and it's like here and there. But what's coming up, I got a couple of shows in New York next month. My record label, Factory Music Chicago, my 4th EP is coming out. I have another label that I'm dealing with Reddick at Dust Tracks. I'm the A&R of the label. We're getting the artists in right now, so you're gonna hear a lot of new dance music.
That's awesome.
This young lady that sings, I'm doing some music with her. We're doing some original stuff. I have an album out on Bandcamp called Grassroots House, where I'm breaking down. I seen you before. I'm supposed to Ben sent you before. I told you I was gonna send you before. I didn't. So I'll send it to you once I'm done. I'm breaking down Rodney Franklin's In the Groove, message in the music by the OJs. It's funk. It's like when you hear these records, it takes you back to 1981. Or if you hear message in the music, you ain't gonna hear no. You're gonna hear you're gonna hear it punched up. So do the stems and all that stuff. So I just want to give my people good quality music. Like, it's my duty to pass that music, and even if it's old to us, those kids don't think so, because now they're picking up copies of Funkanova at the age of 18 and 17. I love it. You know, like, whoa, these kids are listening, and I love it.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, listen, we're gonna get out of here, but I want to say I appreciate you, brother. I love you. J. Jen, thank you for tuning in. Corky,
thank you, brother. Thank
lots
you.
of love. Everybody, please support this brother's work. I mean, I every time you come on, I always got to stop and pause and check in because I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate what you're saying, and I know that sometimes it's hard for people to like hear that, but it's real, you know. And if nothing else, you are going to keep it real. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you all for hanging out with us. And again, we'll do it again. We'll do it again. Next time we'll do it in the studio. What do you say?
We need to do it in the studio and play some jams.
I want to do that.
Jam it out. We need to jam it out. I haven't did that with you yet.
I know. Well, we're back. I mean, and you know, hopefully this pandemic will pass and we can all hang out. And I know
in God's grace, it will. You know what I'm saying? Come on, sis. You are my big sister. This is no cap, as the kids would say. You know, and I look at I actually brag about you. I'm like, you know, my big sister's like she's the first lady of house music in Chicago. No, she's not. Yes, she is. Let me show you. Let me see. Look, I didn't know that. All right, then. So don't ever think that no women can't hold it down.
Thank you.
Don't ever think women can't hold it down. And that's another thing too. We need more women.
Yes.
We need more women.
Well, my next show is first week in March, and we're going to start Women's Month. And a lot of things are happening this month and next month, but next month for sure, you will see more women guests. We're going to have some panels. We'll have some one-on-ones, and we're going to be doing some parties. So I'll be out there. Hopefully you'll be out there. We can all celebrate women and celebrate each other.
I'm there. I'm there.
And in the meantime, have a great Black History Month. Celebrate who Black people are and what we have done to build this nation and to build this world, because it's a lot. It's a lot, people. I love you guys. Hey, Melody, thanks for tuning in. Corky, thank you. And we'll see you all next week.
Hey, let me leave you guys with a John Henry. Let me leave you guys with, since it's Black History, let me leave you guys with a John Henry Clark quote. I debate with my equals. All others I teach. Remember that.
Debate with my equals. All
others I teach. Rest in peace, Dr. John Henry Clark.
All right, guys.
Peace.
Peace.